When it comes to training, there are a few key elements that make a world of difference to your progress. Now we see it time and time again, those lifters that have the best intentions, they go in the gym, they train 4 to 5 days per week, and they don't achieve the progress that they want because they are missing these key elements that we're going to talk about in this video. So let's break them down. Now when you walk into the gym, you want to make sure that every exercise, set, and rep is counting towards your goals. And this is why we are so big on the concept of specificity. To maximize your results, your training should align with your goals. We don't want a bunch of people walking into the gym doing a bunch of random training that is not leading towards your objectives. For example, if you're somebody who wants a more developed muscles, maybe bigger glutes, the last thing you want to be doing is going to the gym doing excessive amounts of cardio and some gym classes, when what you really should be doing is a structured, tailored weights program. Specificity allows your program to be tailored to you. So that means that you can go into the gym with that total, complete confidence that you're exchanging your hard-earned time and effort for the goals that you set out for yourself. Now, for a lot of you, we see you walking into the gym with no program. And hopefully after this video, we can change your mind on that. Having a well-designed training program is like having a roadmap to success. It outlines all your workouts with the appropriate information like exercises, sets, reps, effort, rest periods, everything you need to do over a specific period of time to obtain those goals and objectives that you have set out for yourself. Not only does this give you laser focus inside the gym, but it also gives you that same focus outside of the gym, because you can now prepare for your sessions because you know exactly what you need to do on what day that program is. So you not only can physically prepare yourself, but you can mentally prepare yourself for all of your sessions. Now, a common question we get asked is, how long should a training program be? And the boring answer is, as long as you're making progress. The length of your training program is influenced by your goals, fitness level, training age, and your preferences. Generally, a beginner can be on a program for a long period of time. Because they are new to lifting, focusing on a smaller amount of movement variability can help them achieve mastery, which is going to lead to better execution in the gym and better results over that period of time. We don't want to expose somebody who's new to the gym to too much variety in their movements, because it's going to demand too much from a skill perspective, which means that they're going to be constantly learning how to do a wide variety of movements and never getting into a position where they're actually pushing themselves to challenge their body to get stronger, bigger, whatever it is that the goal is for that particular program. So in this instance, we've had lifters go on programs for 12 weeks, 16 weeks, maybe a little bit of movement variability here and there, but the core components of the program do remain the same. Now, if you're an intermediate or an advanced trainee, the scope and the length of the training program is quite varied. And that's because depending on the goal, that'll dictate the time frame. You'll have specialist programs where you're only on them for a shorter period of time. You'll have different blocks within your periodization that are focusing on different objectives. You'll have different blocks of training specializing in isolating specific muscle groups to bring them up in your training. All of these things will vary the time and the duration of the program, which typically lies between 4 to 12 weeks in most instances. Now, ultimately, the program can last indefinitely, providing that you're making progress. Now, when it comes to your training program, you want to make sure it's effective as possible. And for that to be so, it must contain these key elements. First up, it must have some form of strategic exercise order. Now, in most instances, people will list the program from the most difficult and physically demanding exercise at the start of the session and then rank them from hardest to least hardest. Now, that is a really effective way to train, especially if you're a strength athlete, especially if you've got big compound movements in your session. You might want to stack those after your movement prep at the start of the workout when fatigue is low, and then just move on to those kind of isolated exercises towards the end, which generally aren't too difficult and aren't too physically demanding. Now, what you also can do is order your session in a way that you rank those exercises in terms of importance for your body or your goal. Now, rather than ordering the exercises solely based on how difficult they are, what we can also do is order our workouts based on what's the most important for the trainee and what's the most least important. So what I mean by that is, let's say we have somebody who wants to build bigger calves or bigger arms or bigger glutes. They might want to order those movements at the start of their session. Now, in some instances, these might be isolation exercises. They might not be those big, heavy compound movements, but because this person wants to maybe bring those up and focus on those for this particular program. They want to be performing those exercises when they are in the most least fatigued state possible, because we can obviously train harder, recruit more muscle fibers, expose them to more mechanical tension, essentially drive the adaptations from training that we want. So this is another important way that we can list our exercises in a strategic order when we go into the gym to train. Now, the next up, we have volume allocation. And this is extremely important because this is essentially the dose of total work in the amount of sets that we can give somebody, not only for a workout, but a training week. And that's going to differ heavily from person to person. And that is because we all have different physical characteristics, how strong we are, our training age, our leverages, and then we also have different lifestyle characteristics. And that is the quality of our diet, how much sleep we get, what our overall stress load is. All of these things will influence somebody's recovery capacity, and their recovery capacity will influence the amount of training volume that they get. So yes, there's really good numbers that we can use in literature to promote positive adaptations for training, strength, hypertrophy, but we need to make sure that that person has the recovery capacity for the amount of work that they do, so they don't experience things like overtraining or increase their risk to injury. And we put them in a position where they can recover from their sessions and are making progress over a period of time. Now, the next key important element to your program is your rep ranges. The number of reps that are allocated in your training sets is heavily based off your training goals. If you're somebody whose goals lie in the realm of hypertrophy or body composition, your rep ranges are quite broad. We can train anywhere from 5 reps all the way upwards of 30 reps, but typically we recommend around 5 to 15 reps works in most instances for most movements in the gym. Now, when it comes to strength training, depending on the goal of the particular lifter for the particular training block, will heavily influence the rep ranges in their training program. For top end strength adaptations, for accumulating strength adaptations, most of the work that a lifter can expect to do is around that 1 to 5 rep range. However, in other training blocks like hybrids, hypertrophy, even putting some skill-based movements in their program, which is really important in the strength realm, these rep ranges can stretch anywhere from 5 reps all the way up to 15 reps, just depending on what training block that particular athlete is in. So as you can see, rep ranges aren't just a bunch of random numbers in your program. There is a lot of thought and intention that goes into them. Now, the last one we're going to discuss is effort. Now, how hard you train matters. We want you guys training as hard as possible for as long as possible, because that is how you get the best results. I've never met somebody who takes into consideration all of the things that we've just spoken about whilst training hard and never achieve the goals that they want. So when we talk about effort, there's numerous scales that we can use to gauge how hard somebody is training. Now, granted, these are subjective, and granted that you need to learn how to scale yourself, but this is something that is going to evolve over time. Now, we like to use the rep and reserve scale. There's also the reps to failure scale, and there's also the rate of perceived exertion, or the RPE scale. All of these scales give us an idea of how hard we should be training, how hard something feels, and how hard something should be at a given point of your training program. Now, we've said it a lot, training hard matters, but there's also some movements that actually don't require you to train to complete failure. And this is why, again, it is important to have prescriptions of effort within your training program. If you're somebody who needs to learn an exercise, if you have a particular breakdown in a movement that is maybe skill-based, we actually don't want to be training with excessive amounts of fatigue or to a close proximity of failure when we're performing that movement, because it's actually setting ourselves up to not be able to perform that task exceptionally well. So this is where, again, there's a situation where we don't actually need you training to complete muscle failure or to a complete high level of effort. We actually just need you training appropriately with an appropriate load and appropriate effort to get your body to communicate and coordinate itself effectively whilst you learn the task over time to improve it. So I'm hoping by now, if you're one of those people that rolls into the gym without a program, this has convinced you to at least have a look at setting up some form of training sequence over a week and taking a more refined approach to your training. Because as you can see, showing up matters, but how you show up matters more. Your training must be specific, catered to your needs. It must be progressive and have all of the important elements within it to ensure that your hard-earned time and effort is actually getting the outcomes that you want. Now, as always, if you thought this information was helpful, please hit the subscribe button and like the video. This helps us reach more people just like yourself who want to maximize their potential and get the most out of their training in the gym. Don't forget to head to the description and take our results-based quiz, which will give you a report on all of the areas that you're thriving in and all of the areas where you're falling short. You'll actually get a comprehensive report on each area and what you need to do to fix it. And there's also a special offer in there of a free month to our training app.